Hi, this is Lorraine, and I'm doing another video. If you'll give me a second to clear, center, and balance my energy, we'll get started. Okay. I'm just going to start trying to think of different ways to create chapters or something that makes sense, but I'm not haven't figured out how to do it. So right now I still think that just creating dates for every day in my journal is the best way to break down each video, because I don't think the chapters, if I created chapters, would make sense unless you've been watching the videos from the beginning, which is 3 years now, because each video builds on the next or from the previous. So I'll just say that, and then we'll start with 4/9, April 9th. Framework, flexibility, adaptability. The framework is our social structure, economic, political, religious, scientific, and many others, which are utilized to trigger the emotional body. So the framework that this unbalanced energy is using is the framework they work from, consists of our social structure, our economic structure, our political structure, our religious structures, scientific, philosophy, theory, research, or findings, right? They use that like science as prove it, right? And others. There's other parts of this framework that this unbalanced energy uses to trigger our emotional body, okay? And so for, I guess an example I would use would be we have this movement to discuss how Caucasians are inherently privileged, which I disagree with. In the past, we've also had this stereotype that blacks or African Americans were drug addicts or criminals. That's ridiculous also. Anything that generalizes a whole group of people as any one thing is a manipulation, because we have good and bad and everything in between in everything. Okay, we live in a dual universe. Okay, so this political structure of protest, right, of laws that are supposed to protect, is utilized as a tool of manipulation. Okay, we are primarily manipulated through our emotional body in conjunction with the mind or intellect. A clear, centered, and balanced emotional body cannot be manipulated, mind, body, or spirit. And so I have a note for myself to clarify, and I have an example here. I always project love from my subconscious and conscious mind, even when I'm frustrated or even fearful, which is mostly connected to events happening in my children's life or when they are in my presence. The energy projected is from pure love. And so an example is the school district is trying to take away my daughter's IEP. She's got a very profound auditory processing disorder, and we just had an IEP meeting, and they're saying she's no longer qualified, which is absolutely ridiculous. She couldn't participate in online school because she can't follow video instruction. She needs subtitles, and the subtitles were self-correcting. So what would happen is whatever the teacher was saying was out of sync with the subtitles, or the subtitles were incorrect. So when she's reading the subtitles and then they're auto-generated, so when something's incorrectly interpreted, she's totally lost because she's reading the subtitles to help her understand. And so that paradigm did not work for her. So she didn't participate in school, and she was socially promoted. We're in Seattle. She was socially promoted because she couldn't participate in school. And then it was so bad that I homeschooled her for the last about year and a half, almost 2 years. And we just put her back in school because she wanted to be able to socialize more. And she was tested. They needed to do her triennial IEP. And mind you, they didn't do any IEP meetings. Her IEP was completely out of compliance through COVID, but nobody cared about that. Nobody cared that she wasn't being educated and that her IEP was out of compliance. Because it was more important for people to stay home locked in their houses. And so when she got tested, she tested as average. And they're like, she no longer qualifies. And I said, she's where she's at right now because she's had one-to-one instruction. And I've tailored her, modified all our assignments for her. And we have sought information that she's interested in learning. So books that she's read, or historical events that she's done papers on, so on and so forth. She's in 10th grade. And I said, I spent the last 2 years trying to get her back to grade level because of everything she missed. And I'm amazed that she tested so well. But they're like, well, she doesn't qualify anymore. I'm like, that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. Now you want to put her in a general ed classroom with 30 students and take away her IEP. I'm like, that's the most ridiculous thing. So basically, I was very protective of my child. And I'm also a former special educator, so I know ADA. I know that it's her right to a free and appropriate public education. And I know there is a standard deviation for every test given, every test. And so I know we have an argument, but the fact that they were so nonchalant and flippant about it upset me. And my daughter was almost in tears because she participated in the IEP meeting. Because it's important for her to understand and learn how to advocate for herself. But trust me, I was not I wasn't calm and quiet and very demure in any way. I was advocating for my child. Because one thing I learned was that every time I walked into an IEP meeting as a teacher, I was told what the school district would offer. And if they weren't going to accept it, they would have to go to due process. And that's where we're at. We have to go to due process. And so, that was it. I knew at that moment that was it, that we'd have to go to due process. So I made it perfectly clear that that was unacceptable and that I would be advocating for my daughter. And I made all the points that I just said. And I was very firm. I was very assertive. And I was very much the mama bear, mean mommy, I call her. And some people might say, question whether I was balanced in my energy field. I think that's a fair question, but everything I did and how I did it was because I love my daughter. It was rooted in the depth of my love for her. And she needs to be protected because the school district's isn't looking out for her best interests. That's my job as a parent. And so it was important for me to let them know from my personal experience, I knew what they were doing and I wasn't okay with it. It is not okay to marginalize people who are already marginalized in society. It's just not okay. And just because my daughter looks normal like everybody else, they think it's okay. Okay, if someone has a really severe disability that you can see, people tend to be more accommodating, not necessarily more respectful. I know that that has its own challenges, but people who look more normal are expected to be able to act like everybody else or perform like everybody else, and that's just not true. And so I was very firm in my words and in my actions. And so although, like I said, you might think, or someone who was witnessing that might think I was out of balance, but I was very clear in my intention. I was very clear in what I was doing, and I was very clear in what I was trying to accomplish. And my most important job in that moment was to make sure my daughter knew that I was on her side and that I would do everything in my power to get her what she needs, even if it means going back to homeschooling, which I'm okay with and she's okay with. I just don't think what is happening is right. So again, I think that's an example of what might appear to be an unbalanced energy, but the intention and my execution, I think, was very balanced, because I wasn't going to allow people to marginalize my daughter. Okay, so they said she's no longer qualified. I became very defensive because I know my daughter's struggle. My defensiveness was rooted in my deep love for her and my desire to shield her from the pain and struggle I experienced from my own traumas from my childhood, which is kind of ironic because I got a message, maybe I should talk about that later, about my children's, their own traumas versus in comparison to mine. So that being said, these experiences have a purpose for both of us. My intention is not to harm or marginalize others, but to protect my daughter from being marginalized. What is happening to my daughter is a perfect example of why I do not teach anymore. I will not marginalize someone who lives their life being marginalized daily. It's those who appear typical outwardly, physically, passable, if you will, who are some of the most marginalized. Okay, so I have a note from the last video. Vibration. Vibration is a tool used to create this reality. Pure consciousness does not vibrate, it just is. It is awareness of existence. It is aware it exists. This awareness awakened itself from the I am state of pure awareness of its existence and began manifesting this universe through vibration, sound vibration, and light waves. So I feel like I need to explain that vibration, that I am awakened state. So the divine, the source of all creation, sits in this state of pure consciousness and awareness of its existence, and nothing more. There's no thought, okay, other than I am. That's the best way to put it from this level of consciousness, okay? But the second it starts to consider what it could possibly be, okay, when it starts to look at itself. And the example I gave in a previous video is, I see myself in the middle of like an egg, and I imagine like a Fabergé egg or something like that. And I see myself standing in the middle of the egg, and then at just pure consciousness, I exist. And then as I start to imagine what I could possibly be, these ideas or thoughts or possibilities start to project on the inside of that egg, okay? And as I build this idea, this creation, that egg opens and those projections begin to manifest and exist in some type of reality, okay? This is one of those realities, okay? And so this reality is a function of sound, vibration, and light waves, okay? That's what creates this reality, okay? So I wanted to explain that to you. Eventually, this reality will reconcile itself. So what happens is, so when that egg opens, duality is created, right? There is this separation that happens of light and dark, good and bad, hot and cold, white and black, right? These two extremes of everything. And this reality exists, it's created. And then eventually that duality reconciles itself and becomes one again. And that divine source returns to its wholeness, oneness, and to that state of pure existence, okay? And I feel like I needed to say that because now we're going to go into something else that I feel is, I felt like if I didn't explain that, there's too many loose strings before I move into what's coming next. So from the last video, when I was talking about fractals, aspects of the divine, and our own divinity, our own inner divinity, I use words like eventually, and now the concept of time comes into play. So we have already unified this universe because all time is now. So all time is simultaneous, and I'm going to talk about that in this video also. But sometimes it's appropriate to return to a past, present, and future paradigm to explain processes. Okay, so let me go on. On this world, time is utilized to order information. As more of us raise our vibrations, how we communicate will change because the constructs of this world will fall away and the current paradigms will no longer be relevant. Okay, so we use past, present, and future as a tool to order information. Okay, so time is a tool of ordering information. And that's important to understand because I have an example that's something that happened this week that kind of throws things out of time. And so it's important to understand how time is used as a tool merely of ordering information. It has nothing really to do with age or aging, although that's what we've been told, like we're 1 year old, we're 2 years old, we're 20 years old. It's not really about aging. It's about ordering information, okay? Okay, so as our vibration rises, all the constructs of this world are falling away, and that's what we're going through. We're going through a releasing of these old paradigms, these old ideas, okay? And we're going to come into a whole new construct of reality, okay? We're ending a very, I've heard 5,000 year cycle, I've heard 20,000 year cycle, I've heard 25,000 year cycle, and maybe it's all of those. But we're ending a cycle and we're starting a new cycle. And for those people who are transcending, we are starting a whole new reality, a whole new perception of reality, how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive the world around us. People who are not ready to transcend will go to a world where they will repeat this 3D level of consciousness until they're ready to release it, okay? There's a lot of lessons to be learned, and not everybody's at the same place. And it's not punishment, it's just how the universe works. Mother Earth's vibration is rising. You have to match Mother Earth's vibration. And if you haven't matched Mother Earth's vibration, you can't stay here. and we are no longer going to be living at a 3D level, a lower level of consciousness. I don't like to use higher and lower, but we're going to be living at a different vibration. And the people who are still living at this dual, very deep dual material plane vibration, they're going to have to live on a different planet, a different world. Mother Earth is transcending to a higher vibration, and those of us who are raising our vibration are transcending with her. It's just that simple. Okay, it doesn't have to do with good or bad. It just has to do with the work that we've done to raise our vibration to match Mother Earth's. Okay, so the old constructs will fall away, and because they will no longer be relevant. And so an example of this is telepathic communication. The variety of languages on this world will become something of the past. Currency will fall away, so it will no longer be present on our world or in our conversations. As a result, there will be no poverty or wealth. So these words will no longer be part of our language or paradigm. Scarcity, greed, slavery will fall away. So if there's no currency, if there's no economic system as we know it today, we won't have a need for a word for poor or rich. We won't have a need for a word for starving or scarcity or greed, right? Because those paradigms are no longer going to be here. We will no longer need a word for currency or dollar or yen, right? Because there will no longer be any currency. Okay, so these old paradigms are falling away because we're moving out of that. We're moving to a different level of consciousness, a different reality. Okay. Most importantly, I don't want to confuse people when I shift from detailed discussions on how all time is now, then switch back to using past, present, and future. And so it's really important because we're in this transitional place where we're shifting from a lower level of consciousness, a lower level of awareness. We still see ourselves as separate. We used to see ourselves as separate from God. But as we transcend and grow and change, we start to understand our own inner divinity. We understand our connection to one another, right? And as we understand and discover these things, those realities, those understandings are going to grow and change and help us to connect, to start to reconnect. We're starting to unify again, okay? This unbalanced energy doesn't like that because it wants to maintain control. It wants to be on the top, okay? It wants to be the wealthiest. It wants to be the most powerful. And it needs someone or something beneath it to be that. So, and it accomplishes that a lot of the time by making those beneath it feel secure or protected, right? You do this and I'll do that, right? Quid pro quo. And so when people are ready to release that paradigm of feeling like they need someone to help them, protect them, right? That's a very small part of it, but I just need to give an example because I don't feel like I can just throw that out there and expect you to understand. But when people are, or just accept it, when people are ready to release that, they're ready to start opening up to something new and different. They open up to the divine, and the divine helps us become more aware of the self and our connection to the divine, and that helps us grow. Because this is essentially a spiritual journey. This is a journey of not only self-discovery for ourselves, but we represent an aspect of the divine. So the divine is discovering itself through us, okay? And it's even more complex than that, but that's where we're at right now. I can't just throw too much information at once because then it becomes convoluted and confusing. And that's how it gets for me sometimes. Sometimes so much information starts coming in, I get overwhelmed and I get confused. And I'm like, you have to stop. So it's important to kind of take it in small bits, okay? So 4/11, April 11th, the Rastafarian biker. The Rastafarian biker showed up in person. At first I was a little confused. His appearance was different, or he changed it a bit. But there were some qualities I didn't mention that were apparent. Identifying qualities, traits that were not changed. So it's always interesting to me when these energies present themselves physically. It's also quite courageous because they are not clear on who we are, how we think, and what our true creative power consists of. They only know what they have been told, which consists largely of misinformation and disinformation. So maybe being in an energy field of an energy existing primarily in balance is helpful in understanding the humans who are actually transcending much better. So, okay, sorry. A couple times I've had energies come in my physical place, like physically right here in front of me. Not in my home, at work. Because it's easy to get in and out. You can't come into just walk into my apartment, but you can walk into my job. And the Rastafarian biker came in, and I'm looking at this gentleman who is extremely tall, very physically fit, probably 6'5", 6'6". I was sitting down, so it's hard to tell, but I think it's 6'5", 6'6". But he just came in, and I helped him. He was asking some questions about some stuff, and it took me a minute to start making the connection. But I do what I always do. I'm very personable. I'm very friendly at work, and I was just chatting him up, and I'm helping him and answering questions. I scheduled I had somebody come and give him a tour, and the person who did it was super friendly. She's like one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. And I didn't really think about it in the moment. Actually, it wasn't until after he actually walked away that I made the connection. Otherwise, I was just, there's so much going on at my desk. It's hard to, a lot of stuff going on at my desk. And it's hard to kind of focus. And actually, when he walked up, there wasn't that much going on, but like he was there for like 5 minutes, and all of a sudden it was super busy. And that's just kind of how it happens. But I'm just going to keep reading. But it was very entertaining. Pleasant. I shouldn't say entertaining. It wasn't entertaining. It was very pleasant. There was an incredible sense of calm as he was standing in my field. Okay, and so I said, I have a note here that I wrote later. The unbalanced energy here is communicating that all energy on Earth is equivalent to theirs, which is untrue. So I feel like there was an expectation that when he came, he would get this really depraved, like very sociopathic type energy, which they deal with out in that off Earth, off planet. I don't think that these beings truly have a very good idea of who we are here on Earth, humans are on Earth. I think they have a very morphed, manipulated, what's the word I want? Distorted perception of humanity. And I feel like once he came and he saw and it was engaging me, he was like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And there was a real sense of calm that came over him. Real calm. Very pleasantly surprised, maybe I would say. Also, very... so I had somebody else from another world come in, and he just couldn't, like, everything here was so dirty to him. He could not handle. He's just, I could tell he could, everything. He was very, didn't want to touch anything, right? He was almost disgusted by it. And I was like, wow, you may look human, but you cannot fit in. He did not fit in at all. The Rastafarian biker fit in. Like, you couldn't tell just by looking at him. First of all, he looked totally human, but there was nothing. He didn't come across as thinking everything was icky. It was kind of funny. I'm like, where's this guy been? What is his world like? That's actually what I was thinking. What is his world like? What has he been through? That he had a completely different perspective. Very grounded, I'll say. Very grounded perspective. I was trying to figure out, okay, is he military? Government, right? What is the structure of their world? And it's almost too much to think about. If I would say the vibe was very street. He reminded me, when I was in high school, I went to high school in Oakland in California, and he reminded me of just people who just knew what was going on, right? You couldn't get anything past them. A lot of street smarts, a lot of wisdom from experience. That's what I would say. I'm going to go on. Sorry. So the Zeta Reticuli have been present. Okay, so they've been present in my space before too. They are different in how they present because they do not have a physical form that is passable on Earth. They must infuse or implant their consciousness with a human consciousness living on Earth. Suffuse may be a better term because it's more like covering the primary consciousness for moments in time. So they violate our autonomy, enter our energy field, and suffuse their consciousness over an individual. Okay. The individual must be open and allow this energy in. Often fear or trauma-based thinking opens up their energy field to this type of invasion. I have had 2 people come up to me. I have watched their energy field consciousness shift before me. Then the individual speaks in a way that is unconventional. And it's not like a different language or different intonations or anything. But they say things they wouldn't. The person I know, they say things that are completely out of character to what the person I know would say. Okay. They discuss topics or speak in a way that tries to elicit a certain kind of response or a visceral response. When it doesn't work, they pop out. Also, one can clearly see the shift in their eyes. They always try to intimidate, move you out of center, or probe to see where you sit as far as perspective. And so I made a comment about the Rastafarian biker, but let me just say, so the Zeta Reticuli, so you'll see a person, I'll see a person, and I'll be talking to them, or I know them, and I've had many conversations with this person, and one day he came up and started talking to me about planes and wings and a book that was written by Germans, and how wonderful it is. It's so uniform. Everything. I think I brought this up in a video before, if I remember correctly, and it was like the best book written, and it was written in 1920 something, and the United States hasn't written anything that even comes close to what this book said, and everybody should do it this way because they did it first and they did it the best. And I just said so I'm having this conversation and I'm listening to him, And I said, but if we're just, everybody's doing the same thing the same way, how does that honor the individuality of each person, or the individuality of each culture, or the individuality of humanity? I'm like, this, the most beautiful thing about humanity is our creative ability. Like, if we can think it, we can make it. So why do we want to keep doing the same thing over and over again? That's redundant. That holds you back. I go, that makes no sense to me. And he gave me this look like he didn't like it. And then he turned and he walked away. So this is a person who's never talked to me about planes before or since. Okay? And he's into scuba. He's into the water. Never. But his eyes shifted. They turned like a black. I would say a deep, there was a depth to them. His pupil was dilated. Maybe, I think his pupil, because he had blue eyes, his pupils were pretty dilated, which is very unusual. He actually came behind my desk, came very close to me, which he normally doesn't do. I don't like people behind my desk. And there is an intensity and a clarity in his speech. He tends to stutter more, and because he's thinking so fast. And he was much more clear in his execution and how he was articulating. And I was like, clearly something just happened. So that was the first time that happened, and that took me a little longer to discern. Like, that was the first time I witnessed that. But the second time, I was talking to someone, and very pleasant person that all of a sudden started swearing to elicit a response from me, like to move me at a center. And I just rolled right past it. Because, and the body shifted up like this. It kind of came up tight, tense. The eyes looked straight at me. They had that dark quality. The pupils were a little dilated. And it just was not happy that I didn't respond in the way that it wanted me to. And then I just started the conversation. I just started pleasantly talking. And then I saw her change back to the person I was talking to before. And I was like, clearly, and it's not like it's possessing her. It's not like the consciousness is coming in and leaving. It's there. The consciousness is there in him and her. It's present. And then it just falls to the back, or it comes back up to the front, and it starts driving. So it'll crawl into the back seat for a while, and then it crawls up to the front seat and starts driving. That's the best way to look at it. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know. I feel like it's not perpetual. I feel like it is. I don't feel like this energy is in either one of these bodies, like from birth until death, or for like years or decades. I feel like it's as an as needed circumstance, and I feel like these are people who are don't have protective fields up. They don't know how to put up protective fields, or they are living a very fear-based life, a lot of insecurity. And what happens when you have a lot of fear and insecurity, it weakens your aura. Your aura is your body's protection. And that allows for these negative, unbalanced energies to move in and either attack you energetically or even usurp your consciousness. And that's something that's very prevalent from what I understand, the Zeta Reticuli community, because they have released their bodies, destroyed their physical bodies, and they live as pure consciousness, but not from an elevated state of awareness. So I can astral travel and leave my consciousness, leave my physical body, and return to it. Okay, I have a body to return to. They have to either be in, they have to house their body, house their consciousness in those physical forms that they've created, like robotic. They're kind of like I don't know. I want to say programmable life forms, but I remember programmable life forms. But I remember what's his name? I can't remember his name right now. They said they looked like human. In the Zeta Reticuli bodies, they don't look human. But they're either housed in a storage system or they're in their physical, the mobile bodies that they've created to put their consciousnesses in, or they have them moved into another person. And so these two people, once again, are very living fear-based lives, very weak. So they are good candidates for that. But someone like me who's very protected, I've set up protective fields, I clear, center, and balance my energy constantly. I do a lot of work now. I don't even use protective fields anymore, because I don't use protective fields for myself because I was given different tools to protect myself. But I do have ways to protect myself from this type of invasion. And that's one of the things, that's why it's so important to learn how to protect your energy. For many reasons, but that's one. So I think I want to move on. I'm talking a lot. I'm trying to make the videos not so long. Anyway, so I just finished talking about the Zeta Reticuli, but now I'm going back to the Rastafarian biker. And so for the Rastafarian biker, there was a settled yet cautious energy with the Rastafarian biker. He was definitely doing recon when he was there. He was definitely doing recon. And I would have to say, honestly, that this whole, like the last week, and I think in the last few days, he's kind of come in and been very calm energy. So I think when I was just kind of reviewing this, when he came in, he was definitely checking out the scene. He was definitely checking me out, my energy out, what this place I was at, what they did, for sure, absolutely. But he was only observing. He wasn't there to do anything. April 12th, 4/12. Co-create versus create. Co-create implies that someone is helping us to work and working with us. Create implies the individual is creating. First, through language, there are connotations and denotations for words, inferences, and observation in ideas or topics. Implied versus literal, right? Connotations, denotations, right? These qualities do not exist in telepathic communication. Energy does not lie. Energy reveals truth. The more we live from the heart, from balance, the more truth we have access to, for the divine reveals truth to humanity. From a balanced state, existing from unconditional love and accepting divine truth, telepathic communication does not allow for confusion, misinterpretation, inherent in connotation, denotation, inference, and observation. Why? Because of perspective. Our points of view may be similar, but they are not exact. Any deviation in perspective is a catalyst for potential conflict. Telepathic communication circumvents this potential conflict. So when we speak in language, and we learn it in literature, right? We learn it in English language, arts, whatever, when you study literature. When we write papers, we talk about connotation, denotation, we talk about inferences and literal, right? Translations. And so there is many meanings for everything we say, right? We say things directly, but we know there's always something implied, right? You know, someone says something snarky and then they say, just kidding. So, well, we know what they said was snarky and maybe belittling, right? But, and then they say, just kidding. But really, are they kidding? Right? Do we know they're kidding? There's all these things that can be implied from what someone says. But with telepathic communication, when you're communicating mind, body, and spirit. Okay? You're not using words, we're communicating with emotions. Okay? And when I'm communicating telepathically, or I'm receiving information telepathically, especially when I first started receiving information this way, it was emotions. It was through empathy that I would get information. And then, so I'd get happiness, sadness, stress, depression, all those things would come in. And then as that started coming in, I could start having visions of what was causing the depression, or I can start hearing stuff that would indicate what was creating the emotions that I was feeling. All the clairs would start assisting me and giving me information to explain the emotions I was feeling. Okay, and then it turns into, and sometimes actually in the beginning, I would get with someone who had clear thought, like, it was kind of funny, but I'm not going to say what it was, but like someone like directly, they didn't even have to be directly looking at me or standing next to me, but I could tell that someone behind me just thought something, and I turn around and I could look at them, and a lot of times they'd look up at me because they'd be surprised that I looked back, and I would know who did it, right? Even if there's a group of people, I could tell when I looked back at the way they looked at me when I looked at them or looked back, I could tell who was the one who had that thought. And so there's no lying. They can't take it back. They don't even know that I know what they thought, but it comes in very clear. And I've learned to trust that intuition. I've learned to trust that telepathic communication. And first we call it psychic abilities. That's what we call it. We call it doing readings. We call it the clairs. We call it all these things. But all that information, if it's immediate, when it comes in immediately, that's a telepathic communication. Okay? And it doesn't matter if it's from across the room or across the universe. We communicate telepathically with all energy. All energy. And it's clear, it's crisp, it's concise. Okay, you just have to learn the language. You have to learn how to start interpreting the clairs. And as soon as you understand how to interpret the clairs, what the clairs are and how to interpret them, then you can just let that go. Because I'm not receiving information going, oh, that's claircognizance, that's clairsentience, that's clairvoyance. I'm not doing that. I'm allowing the information to come in, to flow in, and give me information. Okay, share information with me. That's what but it's important to understand what claircognizance is, where clairsentience, clairvoyance, clairaudience. It's important to know all the clairs, what they do, how they work. And once you understand that, you can just let it go. Okay? Because it's not important. Let's see. 4/13, April 13th. 9:05. So this day, I definitely felt like I needed to write the times down for everything. So oh, I know why. Okay. 9:05 a.m. I feel the energy lightening up, becoming less choppy, less discord, smoothing out. I feel relief. 9:30 a.m. The Rastafarian biker comes in. He shares that he feels deceived. His people feel deceived and manipulated. What he saw and experienced in my present wasn't what was conveyed to him and his people by the cabal. He never experienced energy like mine from any cabal members or agents. that would be the same for the energy he experienced by a coworker and others. So when my coworker took him on a tour, she's like one of the kindest people ever. He didn't feel any of that same energy he feels when he's around any of the cabal members. And so he felt lied to, manipulated, and deceived. He thought that all people on earth were like them. He felt calm and assured by what he witnessed. He shared love and light. So he gave me the symbol and shared love and light with me, and stepped back away, fading into darkness. So he came in telepathically and was communicating with me in that moment. I then started thinking about the video I will be making this coming weekend, and I saw myself in the video. So that's this video. I started crying because I felt a massive wave of love come in, and then I saw the Rastafarian biker. He and his people were sharing love and gratitude for our interaction and the knowledge, information acquired during that interaction. It helped them understand humanity's path. I saw them back away or leave our space. The feeling is they are the first of many. So this is an example of all time is now. Past, before the video, present, the making of the video, and future, watching the video all at once. So, okay, sorry, it took me a minute. So before I made the video, I had that experience of him and his people sharing love and light with me during the making of the video. Okay? And then, but I was watching the video when I was witnessing what was happening in the video. So in the present moment, in the bathroom, in that moment, I was in the bathroom, sorry, brushing my teeth or something. In that moment, I'm watching the video already made, but I'm seeing myself experience that love from his people. Okay? So even though that's all happening on April 13th at 9:30 in the morning, the video is being recorded today, April 14th at 10:42 at night, and then I'll be watching the video probably tomorrow morning while I'm editing it, right? And so all those moments happened simultaneously. Otherwise, I couldn't have known what was going to happen on the morning of the 13th when I was brushing my teeth, right? Does that make sense? I knew when I had that experience that I was supposed to talk about that, about how time is a means of ordering information. But when you talk about all time is now and try to show someone that, it can be very convoluted. But that morning, once again, April 13th, yesterday, 9:30 a.m., I'm having that experience of watching the video I already made and experiencing that love from the Rastafarian biker and his people, like filling me up with love. Okay? So now here's a snafu. Okay? And this isn't timelines. I don't want to say this is not timelines, okay? When I talk about this. So now that video has changed a little bit because I experienced it already in that moment, yesterday morning, okay? And this is the reason why I don't do predictions, because anything can happen between yesterday morning and today to change future realities, future outcomes, okay? And so I can tell you the clothes I'm wearing right now aren't the same as the clothes I saw in the video. I can tell you that I didn't start crying. I did start crying in the bathroom yesterday morning. I was crying when I was experiencing that moment. But in this moment right now, it's not exactly the same thing happening. And so every moment, every thought, everything we do could potentially create a new future reality. That's why nothing is etched in stone until it coalesces. So this is coalescence. That was one possible reality, right? And so something happened to change that reality. So here we are doing the video, and it's a little different. But there is love and gratitude coming in, but I'm not in tears. And actually, there was some funny stuff in the beginning when I was clearing my energy. They were doing some kind of funny stuff. Him and his people. There was like a group of people together. They were actually very entertaining. They reminded me of my brother's friends when I was younger. It was actually very funny. So it changed a little bit. Okay, maybe because we've communicated telepathically more than would have happened if things kept going in that other direction. But since we've been communicating a lot in these last 24 hours, it maybe shifted the energy. Okay, so we're more familiar, right, at this point. I don't know, but I'm just saying. I just thought that was a good example, and I hope it's not too confusing, because I was having a hard time organizing it in my head. Even though I knew what I wanted to say, it was hard to get out. And another thing about telepathic communication, it's so much easier to understand the information as it comes in, rather than trying to explain it verbally. It's like when it comes in through that source energy, it's so crystal clear. So again, I already said it. This is the first wave of love affecting the whole of the universe. So that love and gratitude that the Rastafarian biker and his people were sharing with me was that first wave of love and gratitude coming in and moving out from humanity, right? That's how we're affecting the universe. Okay, so that's our first dose. We projected that love out to the universe, to the Rastafarian biker. It was felt by him and his people, and they're reciprocating. Okay, that's what I'm saying. This energy was allowed in to have this experience. The Rastafarian biker was allowed in to have this experience, to activate the shift in thought, to inspire anew, a different perspective of humanity. It was a catalyst for change. I see other worlds falling away from the cabal agenda. They are attempting to manipulate these worlds to help them hold humanity down, keep us under control, because they know they were losing or would lose control. Okay, so they are manipulating these worlds, trying to tell them that we're horrible people. It's better if these other worlds help this cabal energy keep us contained on this planet, because you don't want humanity to be released. You don't want them. What if, we can't allow that darkness to contaminate the universe. That's what they're telling people. But we're not dark. We're not horrible people. Humanity at its root, we are good. We are good. We've just been manipulated. We've been harmed. We've been traumatized. There is no need for humanity to feel fear. We are transcending into balance. Okay. Also, the higher realms are not part of this transition. Any beings not of this world who are coming to this world are living from a 3D consciousness. So, okay. Elevated levels of consciousness know that exacting a physical force on something is an exercise in futility. All beings coming to this world attempting to coexist or keep humanity in a slave state of mind are all living from a lower level of consciousness. Higher realms communicate energetically. And so when I mean coexist, I talk about beings from other worlds who come here to live on our planet. That doesn't mean that energies living at a 3D level can't or won't attempt to communicate energetically or telepathically. That is why clarity and discernment are so important. We must live from a clear, centered, and balanced place, mind, body, and spirit. And so all the beings that are coming, any beings coming to this world are living at a lower level of consciousness, 3D level of consciousness. Maybe like us have access to higher level technology because they have beings from other worlds who have given us that technology, usurped technology in some way and given it to us, manipulated us. Here, we'll give you this if you give us your freedom, let's say, right? And so all those beings are living at a lower level of consciousness. The beings coming to this world are not higher level consciousness. They aren't 5D, 6D, 7D, whatever that stuff is, right? I'm not really into that, these labels, but higher levels, beings living from higher levels of consciousness know that trying to exact a force through the physical plane is a waste of time. You want to do it energetically through your consciousness. That's a change that is lasting, okay? And so the other thing is they're not only coming physically, they can communicate telepathically. Just like I can communicate across space and time, they can do the same, these 3D level consciousnesses. That's why you have to be able to discern what energies come in. You have to put up protective fields to make sure you don't allow in negative energy, okay, unbalanced energy. And then you also have to be able to discern that energy that's coming in. Even if it does come through, you have to discern that it's a balanced energy. Because if you don't, then you could be manipulated by that unbalanced energy, okay? And I talked about protective fields. I talked about the ways to get around them or to put tears in them to get through it, like negative or unbalanced energy to get through it. I'm not going to talk about that right now, but it's really important to have your disciplines, okay? And as you grow and change, you'll be given different tools, but you have to start understanding what it means to protect your energy and what it means to discern light or balance and unbalanced energy, what it means to communicate and how do you communicate and how do you read the energy. These are all skills we're just learning as we transcend into this next level of consciousness, okay? It's about growth, but it's also about wisdom and discernment, okay? So 1205, so this is still the 13th, 1205. Gratitude from Rastafarian Biker and his people for the experience. There was never any need to be worried. The truth was always going to be revealed. And so this is just a lesson. It's just something, obviously it's something that keeps coming through. We don't need to be worried. We don't need to be afraid. The truth is always going to be revealed about this unbalanced negative energy. It's just we need to accept it. We need to see it, acknowledge it, and accept it, okay? And then release it. We don't hold on to it. We don't get angry. We don't get resentful. We don't become spiteful, because right now Mother Earth's energy is rising. And as she rises, her energy rises, and our energy rises with her. We go with Mother Earth. These negative, deceptive, unbalanced energies will have to live and incarnate on a world that exists at their vibration. Okay, it was always going to happen this way. So it's really important to not hold on to that and to not hold on to those emotions connected to those experiences. Okay, as these experiences are revealed, okay, as this darkness or this unbalanced energy is revealed. I'm not meant to know the specific events. Divine right timing is always at play, but I do know everything will be okay. These specific events with regards to the Rastafarian Biker are meant to be revealed at this time. This is divergence. It is becoming easier for individuals on Earth to on Earth and those observing from off planet to discern between the unbalanced and balanced energies. Earth before this now moment was perceived more as white noise projecting negative or unbalanced energy. So it wasn't like they could be like, oh, there's some good people on this planet. It wasn't. It was Earth was like projecting like a white noise type homeostatic unbalanced energy, like at a certain level, right? So it wasn't like sometimes it'd be positive and sometimes it'd be negative. It was just like this unbalanced energy being projected at all times. Many off-world were confused at how Earth's food and energy could be so healing when it was projecting this negative energy, right? Unbalanced energy. The reason for this was that these worlds were seeing a projection of the unbalanced energy on this world, the cabal energy. The fear instilled by that energy blinded them to humanity's beauty or divine light. The reason? Not only is humanity meant to connect to the source and maintain clear-centered and balanced energy through and by the heart center, but so are all other worlds. They are meant to seek and find the divine light within, as well as the divine light in humanity, Earth humans. So there's the reason why our food is so healing is because they're beauty. People who do farming love farming. Like organic farmers love their doing what they're doing, okay? People do, these are, in my opinion, these are salt of the earth people, okay? Not the big corporate farmers, the people who family own farms, right? They put so much love into their farms, right? Into what they're producing. And that's what is healing. Our emotional body being projected into this food is healing. But when these energies from other worlds are seeing or feeling this unbalanced energy from Earth, they're like, how could they be producing this healing food? Because they don't know who they are, who we are. They don't have access to us, okay? They only know what they're told. They're manipulated and misguided and deceived, just like we are, or just like we have been. So just like it's our job to find the light within, to discern the balanced and unbalanced energy, and grow and change and evolve and transcend, just like we're meant to do that. That's what they're meant to do. They're meant to find their way to connect to the heart center, connect to the higher self, connect to the divine, seek that connection, learn how to read the clairs, learn how to discern energy, and find the beauty of humanity. Find the beauty of the worlds around them, the world around them that they're living on, the people that they're living around, the universe around them. They are on the same journey as we are, just from a different perspective, okay? And so part of their journey is self-discovery. Part of their journey is to allow humanity to evolve, not give into the fear of what they think humanity could be, because they were lied to and manipulated just like we were. So they have to find their way out of that. I forgot to write down one thing. I think it was yesterday at the end of the day, middle of the day, I can't remember, but I was actually, I think it was after like 12:30, 12:05, around that time when I would or maybe it was after I had that vision with the Ross firing bike of the time, past, present, and future, where I gave you that example of all time is now. But anyway, I had a vision of this me. I saw myself actually, and I started pixelating and started kind of fading away, like blowing into the wind. And I was like, what is that? That is very strange. And the feeling was the negative energy, is the unbalanced energy is fading off the planet. And for some reason, I'm always seeing this. Well, actually, when I see plasma and I see like that phase of creation, it's very much like halftones and pixelating, and it's very interesting. It's black and white sometimes, and sometimes it's colored like rainbows. And so it starts to shift and change almost like fractals, and it moves in this weird, very symmetrical way, but then it gets very complex. But the fractals or the halftones or whatever are very small in the center, and then they expand and they open up and they start to broaden and spread out. And that's very much like what I was seeing. It's like these fractals, halftones, whatever you want to call it, just start spreading out and moving this way, and kind of dissipating. And then I was like, that's very interesting, what's happening? And then I see a dandelion, and the dandelion, when it turns into the seeds and it gets blown in the wind, I see the seeds like blowing into the wind. And it was just like it was just showing me, the source energy was showing me, or I was seeing through my own divine light, my own inner divinity, this unbalanced energy slowly leaving the planet. That's what it represented, is it was slowly leaving the planet. So I said negative unbalanced energy fading away, vision pixelating. They showed me falling away like dust being blown off. Showed me personally falling away like dust being blown off an item or a table. Then they showed me a dandelion, or showed me dandelion seeds being blown into the wind. And I think that's it. So I'm going to take a minute to see if there's anything else. And so the Rastafarian biker, even though the picture I showed you was a Rastafarian on a bicycle, actually what I saw was he looked more like a Rastafarian on a Harley, not like a bicycle biker, but like a motorcycle biker. Big man, very tall man, very physically fit, lean, not really huge, like a wrestler or a football player. Very calm energy, but I'm not really sure if it's because their emotions are different, like the depth of emotions. But anyway, give me a second. I just started talking about him because he came in. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.